All right, in this next video, we're gonna show you another dip that you can make as an appetizer to have setting out like along with the cheese board so that people can be, if people are getting here early, they can be grazing around. So we're gonna make a pimento cheese dip. Now, the original recipe of this calls for only 2 cups of cheese, but when I do this recipe, I usually double it because I find that it keeps for a while and people really like it. So we're gonna double the recipe. So that means we're gonna use 4 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. So this is freshly grated cheddar cheese, so it's gotten a little clumpy. So we're gonna zhuzh it a little bit like that. Just like that. So that's 1 cup. Oh. Okay, so we've got 4 cups of freshly shredded cheddar cheese. Then because we're doubling the recipe, also the reason I like to double it is because the original recipe calls for 4 ounces of cream cheese, but cream cheese comes in an 8-ounce block, so it kind of makes sense to do the whole thing. One thing that makes mixing the cream cheese makes it a little easier is to set it out again on the counter and let it warm up to room-ish temperature. This wasn't setting out for very long, but another thing you could do is you could nuke it in the microwave for say 10-ish seconds and get it heated up a little bit to make it easier to mix. So the original recipe again calls for 3 tablespoons of pimento cheese. This is a 4-ounce jar, which is what I usually get. Because we're doubling it, we just use the whole thing. So we just dump the whole thing in there with the pimentos and the liquid. Hey, that worked. And then we're going to use a 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. Alright. So now that we've got everything in here, we've got 4 cups of cheddar cheese, we've got 8 ounces of cream cheese, 4 ounces of pimentos, and we've got 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. So now we're going to work on mixing it together, and then we'll salt and pepper it. And you can see that this cream cheese, yeah, it's a little tough. So that's why sometimes it's good to get it at room temperature. So you can kind of sometimes use the spatula, or sometimes I have even using a wooden spoon actually to kind of mash the cream cheese. And you'll start to see it get, incorporated into itself. Really, it's just gotta work at mixing it. So you'll see that you can see where there's some parts where the cream cheese still isn't mixed in. So if you need to, you can add a little bit more of the shredded cheese to kind of balance it out. For the most part, those proportions are gonna work for you. So now we're gonna add, it calls for, let's see, kosher salt and freshly ground pepper to taste. So, I don't know how much that was. It's fine. But the other thing is that once this is together, you're gonna put it in, you're gonna keep it chilled, in the fridge. So it will lose its saltiness. So when you bring it back out and you mix it back up, you might need to add a little bit more salt. But you don't wanna overdo it. Some fresh ground pepper. And if you want to, you can actually take a cracker and do a little taste test to see where the salt lands. So maybe we'll do that. I like to use just the regular, I guess they're off-brand Triscuits. You want a sturdy cracker for this. You don't want some flimsy saltine. It's pretty good. Okay, so we're gonna stick with that. So just transfer it into the bowl to put it into the fridge. Now we've got our pimento cheese dip. And the nice thing about this bowl and why I like it is because it has a lid on it. If you didn't have a lid, you could just put some saran wrap on it. But you could bring this out and easily put that right by that cheese board. That's why I like to use this glass bowl instead of like putting it in a plastic bowl. So that's our pimento cheese dip. And like I said, this is a doubled recipe, but I find that this is the right amount. Especially if it's for entertaining or some sort of party, you're gonna want at least this much because you gotta give the people what they want. So that's our pimento cheese dip.